Okay, let's dive into the latest technical intelligence that matters most right now for administrators managing Windows environments, especially those of you knee-deep in Microsoft Intune or Configuration Manager.
That's right. Today we're slicing through the noise of Patch Tuesday to bring you the essential details.
Absolutely. We're focusing on the Portal Fuze weekly KB update report for June 10th, 2025. This report, drawn from Microsoft's own knowledge base articles and security advisories, is our source material, providing the factual basis for everything we're going to unpack.
And this report specifically zeroes in on the knowledge base articles most relevant for Windows client and server operating systems, in enterprise environments.
So let's get a quick overview of the landscape according to this report. It covers 13 total articles this week.
Correct. 13 distinct KBs highlighted for their relevance to administrators.
And within the scope of those KBs, Portal Fuze is tracking a significant number of vulnerabilities.
Yes. The report indicates Portal Fuze is tracking 241 total CVEs this week associated with these 13 KBs. It's important to remember, as the report points out, this isn't the entire universe of CVEs Microsoft published across all their products this month, but the specific ones tied to the KBs detailed here.
That context is key. And within those 241 tracked CVEs, the report flags one critical vulnerability and 123 high-severity vulnerabilities. That immediately tells you this isn't just a, maintenance release. There are significant security risks being addressed.
Precisely. And the updates cover the core platforms you're likely managing: Windows 10, Windows 11, and Windows Server.
So our mission with this deep dive is pretty straightforward. We're here to be your guides through this specific Patch Tuesday release. We want to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, the potential impacts, the gotchas, and the key takeaways you need as expert administrators responsible for patch management and system reliability.
Right. The goal is really to help you make informed decisions and hopefully streamline your operations this week.
Think of us as distilling this technical document down to the actionable intelligence you need to plan deployments, testing, and maybe even user support.
Exactly. Okay, let's stop talking about the report and start diving into its contents.
Sounds good. We'll begin where the report does, looking at the security updates and specifically the updates for Windows 10.
Windows 10 remains a dominant force in many organizations, even as we approach that October 2025 end of support date, which the report appropriately notes. So these updates are still highly relevant, especially for those on long-term servicing channel builds.
Speaking of LTSC and newer builds, the first significant KB detailed in the report's Windows 10 security section is KB5060533. This update is for Windows 10 Enterprise LTSC 2021, IoT Enterprise LTSC 2021, and also covers all editions of Windows 10 version 22H2.
Right. Landed June 10, 2025, as expected. The report designates this as a critical security update. Its primary stated purpose is addressing various security vulnerabilities.
And what's particularly notable, and maybe a theme we'll see, is its inclusion of unspecified security enhancements to internal Windows OS functionality.
Yeah, that phrase, unspecified security enhancements, it sounds, vague, right?
It does. From an administrator's perspective, what does that phrase really mean when you see it on a Patch Tuesday report, especially when the report flags it as high impact?
Well, that phrase usually signifies updates to core OS components, underlying security mechanisms that don't necessarily map directly to a specific publicly disclosed CVE in this particular KB summary. Microsoft is constantly hardening the OS, right? Improving internal validation, secure boot, kernel integrity, other foundational layers.
Okay.
So the fact that the report categorizes these as high impact means they're tackling significant potential weaknesses or reinforcing key defenses. For us as administrators, it means treating these KBs with the same urgency as those listing loads of CVEs. It's a signal that foundational security is being strengthened.
So we can't see the specific vulnerability being fixed by this enhancement, but the impact of the enhancement itself is high because it's fundamental. Patch now, ask questions later, sort of.
Pretty much, yeah. Prioritization should be high based on the impact level, even without those granular CVE details in the summary. The report also notes that KB5060533 incorporates quality improvements from the previous month optional update, KB5058481.
Right, the preview release from May 28th, those usually handle non-security fixes.
Exactly. And crucially, it includes the latest servicing stack update, KB5059504.
Bundling the SSU in is always helpful.
Absolutely. Servicing stack updates are critical. They fix the Windows Update engine itself. If the SSU isn't current, updates might fail, roll back, cause issues. So getting it reliably applied with the cumulative update is key for a smooth patching cycle. including KB5059504 streamlines that.
Now, this KB5060533 does come with a noted known issue in the report, the Noto fonts issue.
Oh, yes, that one again. We've seen this recently. The symptom is blurry or unclear text for CJK characters, Chinese, Japanese, Korean.
Specifically at 96 dpi.
Right, specifically at 96 dpi in Chromium browsers like Edge and Chrome. The report blamed limitations in pixel density at that lower DPI and how these fonts render.
And the workaround is just increased display scaling.
Yeah, the recommendation is to bump it up to 125% or 150%. It's not a showstopper, but definitely a user experience hiccup.
So if you support users working with CJK languages or maybe standardized on 96 dpi for some reason, this is something to be ready for.
Exactly. Proactive communication, update your help desk guides. It could save you some support tickets if users know what to expect and how to fix it easily.
Makes sense. For this specific KB5060533, the report indicates it tracks 18 associated CVEs.
Okay, moving within the Windows 10 security section, the report also highlights KB5060998. This update is specifically for Windows 10 OS build 102.42.21034.
That's version 1507, right? The original Windows 10 release. Still supported for some LTSC folks.
Correct. And again, the report flags the looming October 2025 end of support date. This update is categorized as a security update for that specific older build.
Yeah.
Similar to the last one, its main purpose is enhancing internal security through unspecified security enhancements, also flagged as high impact.
So that same theme, foundational hardening, even on the really old builds.
Yep. Now, a key difference here compared to KB5060533 is an explicit statement in the report about KB5060998. No specific bug fixes or additional improvements are documented beyond general security enhancements.
That's actually quite useful, isn't it, from a testing standpoint?
It really is. It tells you you don't need to go hunting for regressions tied to new features or unrelated fixes. Your testing can focus mainly on making sure the security update applies okay and doesn't break core functions or your key apps.
And narrows the scope.
Precisely. Simplifies the testing matrix. And even better news, the report states clearly for KB5060998. No known issues are associated with this update.
Always nice to hear on Patch Tuesday. Fewer potential headaches.
Definitely. However, this KB does have a very specific prerequisite that the report emphasizes.
Okay, what's the catch?
It's crucial. The report states unequivocally that the latest servicing stack update, KB5058527, must be installed on the system before you deploy KB5060998.
And if that specific SSU KB5058527 isn't already there,
then this cumulative update, KB5060998, will likely just fail to install via Windows Update, WSUS, ConfigGR, whatever you use. It might download, but the install process will see the missing prerequisite and stop or roll back.
So for anyone managing these 1507 builds, verifying that SSU is present first is a must-do step.
Absolutely non-negotiable to ensure it applies successfully. For KB5060998, the report tracks 15 associated CVEs.
Okay, that wraps up the key security updates highlighted for Windows 10. Let's pivot now to Windows 11, which, is increasingly the focus for many enterprise deployments.
Indeed. The report details security updates for various Windows 11 builds. First up is KB5060842. This is a critical security update specifically for Windows 11 version 24H2 across all editions, also released June 10th.
And the language the report uses for this one is pretty direct. It addresses unspecified security vulnerabilities.
Yes, and it explicitly says these could potentially allow unauthorized access or code execution. Categorizing their impact is critical.
Okay, critical plus unauthorized access or code execution. That sounds serious.
It is. That's the kind of language signaling a vulnerability that could be exploited remotely or locally to really compromise a system, maybe give an attacker significant control. Updates addressing critical vulnerabilities like these should be right at the top of your deployment priority list.
Got it. Beyond the critical security fixes, this KB also brings some notable improvements.
It does. One operational enhancement listed is an improvement to System Restore. It'll now keep restore points for up to 60 days. The report flags that as high impact functionally.
60 days. That's actually quite useful. A longer window for restore points can be a lifesaver if an issue doesn't show up right away after a change. Gives you more options for rollback or diagnosis.
Assuming System Restore is enabled and used in your environment, absolutely. Another improvement fixes a specific Windows Hello for Business issue.
Which one?
It resolves a problem preventing users from signing in successfully when they're using self-signed certificates with the key trust model. Report calls this medium impact.
Okay, that's a specific authentication setup, but for orgs using Windows Hello for Business that way, that's an important fix. It directly impacts usability for those users.
Right. The update also includes updates for AI components, specifically for the new Windows Copilot Plus PCs. So if you're starting to pilot or deploy those, keeping their unique bits patched is now part of the routine.
Makes sense. And I assume it includes an SSU.
Yep, the latest one, KB5059502, bundled in for update reliability. Always fundamental.
Now, does this one also have the Noto fonts issue?
It does.
So-
Just like the Windows 10 update KB5060533, this Windows 11 update KB506R8.2 also lists the Noto fonts issue as known.
Same problem. Blurry CJK text at 96 dpi in Chromium.
Exactly the same reported issue, same workaround.
Yeah.
Increased display scaling to 125% or 150%.
Seeing it across both Win10 22H2 and Win11 24H2 updates suggests it's maybe broader than just 1 KB, right? Like a Chromium interaction issue.
That seems likely. It reinforces the need for admins to just be aware of it and the workaround, regardless of the specific OS version they're patching this month.
Good point. The report mentions ensuring the latest SSU combined with the latest cumulative update is basically the prerequisite here. And for KB5060842, the report tracks 35 associated CVEs.
Moving to other major Windows 11 builds, the report details KB5060999. This is another critical security update targeting Windows 11 Enterprise and Education versions 22H2 and all editions of version 23H2, also June 10th.
And again, similar to the 24H2 update, the report says this one addresses significant security vulnerabilities, flagged as critical impact.
Yes, another high-priority update due to the potential severity. Critical risks within the OS itself.
The improvements list here mentions a graphic support fix.
Correct. This update specifically resolves an issue causing errors like the remote desktop services session has ended during RDP connections. The report blames underlying graphic support problems and notes this fix as high impact.
That's got immediate operational relevance. Reliable RDP is crucial for remote work, admin access. Fixing random disconnects caused by graphics glitches is a big stability win.
Definitely helps anyone relying on RDP day to day. The update also incorporates all enhancements from Windows 11 version 22H2, which is medium impact. This basically ensures feature parity for 23H2 users receiving this update. And of course, it includes the latest SSU, KB5058546.
And let me guess, the Noto font's known issue.
You guessed it. KB5060999 also lists the persistent blurry CJK text at 96 dpi in Chromium browsers issue.
Same issue, same workaround, bump scaling to 125% or 150%.
The pattern holds. It really highlights how widespread this specific rendering issue seems to be with recent Windows updates and Chromium at that DPI setting. Factor it in as a potential support question for both Windows 10 and 11 users.
Okay. The report states ensuring the latest SSUs installed beforehand is the prerequisite. For KB5060999, it also tracks 35 associated CVEs, same count as a 24H2 update.
All right, we've covered the security updates specifically for Windows 10 and 11 clients. Let's move to the section in the report covering multiple operating systems, often Windows Server and older Windows 10 LTSC versions.
Right, these are often critical for server infrastructure and maybe some remaining older clients. First, KB here is KB5060531. Report calls it a critical security update for several platforms. Win10 Enterprise LTSC 2019, IoT Enterprise LTSC 2019, IoT Core LTSC, and Windows Server 2019.
Released June 10th. The report also includes support reminders. Server 2019 extended support runs to Jan 2029, but Win10 LTSC 2019 aligns with the general Win10 end of life in October 2025.
Now, the report notes something interesting about the vulnerabilities addressed by this KB5050531.
Yeah, it states that no specific vulnerabilities are actually detailed within this KB article summary. Instead, it points you to the main June 2025 security updates documentation for the full list.
So the update is critical in fixing security issues, but you have to look at the bigger monthly security bulletin to see exactly which CVEs apply here.
Precisely. That's pretty common for older OS updates.
Yeah.
The individual KB is like a container for fixes tied to the broader monthly release. But the KB article does list specific improvements beyond just security.
Okay, what improvements does it mention?
A key one is fixing GDI and GDI plus rendering issues. The report says it fixed a bug where some characters rendered wider than intended, messing up paragraph formatting in apps using those APIs, flagged as high impact.
That could affect a lot of apps, couldn't it? GDI and GBI Plus are fundamental graphics APIs used by tons of software, especially older line of business stuff. Weird text rendering can break usability.
Absolutely. Fixing that is an important quality improvement. And look here, we see that familiar fix again.
But Windows, hello for Business One.
Yep. Resolving the issue, preventing sign-in with self-signed certs using the key trust model. Listed as medium impact here too.
That's the third KB now with that fix. KB5060842, KB5060531, and I see KB5061010 coming up. Seeing it repeated across different OS versions suggests it was a fairly widespread problem for that specific setup.
It certainly seems like a targeted fix they wanted to roll out broadly. Good news on known issues for KB5060531, though. The report clearly says there are no known issues reported with this update.
Excellent. But there's a crucial prerequisite, isn't there? A
Oh, right.
specific old one.
Absolutely critical, and yes, an older one. The report emphasizes that the August 10, 2021 Servicing Stack Update, KB5005112, must be installed before applying KB5060531.
Correct. Not just the latest SSU, but that specific one. Without it, this cumulative update will fail. Really highlights the importance of maintaining the right SSU chain, even on older supported OECs. For this KB, the report tracks 0 CVEs specifically listed in its summary, pointing again to the main June security docs. Okay, next in the multi-OS section, KB5061010. This is a security update for Windows 10 version 1607 and Windows Server 2016.
Right. More platforms nearing or past end of mainstream support, but still unextended. Win 10 1607 LTSC runs until October 2025, Server 2016 until Jan 2027. And just like KB5060531, the report says no specific vulnerabilities are detailed in this KB summary, pointing again to the overall June 2025 security updates.
But again, specific improvements are listed.
Yes, a notable fix here relates to remote web access, or RWA. It resolves an issue where RWA caused unpredictable remote connections in cloud infrastructure setups, marked as median impact.
RWA isn't maybe as common now, but for orgs still using it or managing cloud stuff interacting with it, fixing unpredictable connections is a welcome stability improvement.
Definitely, Ken, for the fourth time this episode.
Let me guess. Windows Hello for Business, Key Trust Model, Self-Signed Certs.
Bingo. The same fix is listed as an improvement in KB5061010, also medium impact.
Okay, seeing this in updates for Win 11 24H2, Win 10 LTSC 2019 Server 2019, and Win 10 1607 Server 2016 really drives home that this must have been impacting a wide range of systems using that specific config. Clearly a priority fix.
It certainly appears that way. Good news again on known issues for KB5061010. There are no known issues reported with this update.
Consistent positive news for these older OS updates in this section, but another specific SSU prerequisite.
Yes, mandatory. The report requires the latest SSU, KB5060954, must be installed before deploying KB5061010, and it specifically says the update will not be offered via standard channels if that SSU is missing.
That's a strong hint for troubleshooting. If you're managing 1607 or Server 2016 and this update isn't showing up, first check for SSU KB5060954.
Exactly. For KB5061010, the report also tracks 0 CVEs specifically listed in its summary.
Okay, that covers the security updates. Now let's shift to the non-security updates section in the report. These usually handle functional issues, reliability, component updates, not specific vulnerability patches.
Right, though improved reliability definitely contributes to overall health and security posture. The report highlights 2 KBs here, both described as safe OS dynamic updates, focusing on the Windows recovery environment, WinRE.
First is KB5060534, targeting Windows 10 version 1507.
Released June 10th. Again, the report notes the 2025 end of support. The main point of this update is enhancing WinRE functionality and reliability, marked as high impact.
Enhancing WinRE, why the focus on the recovery environment for such an old OS version nearing its absolute end?
That's a really interesting point. WinRE is your lifeline when things go badly wrong, right? Boot problems, system restore needs, advanced troubleshooting. Even on legacy systems that might linger past EOL, which isn't ideal, security-wise, having robust basic recovery is still important for maintenance. This update bolsters that. It replaces a previous WinRE update, KB5055770, and bumps the WinRE version for 1507.
Now this KB5060534 has a critical known issue, one that image managers really need to know about.
This is a big one, yes. The report states clearly, once applied, this update cannot be removed from a Windows image.
Cannot be removed. That's huge for anyone building custom images. If you bake this into your 1507 image,
it's permanent for every system deployed from that image. No uninstalling it from the image layer.
So rigorous testing before integrating it into your standard build is absolutely essential.
Absolutely. You need to be certain in testing that this WinRE update doesn't cause unexpected compatibility issues or conflicts, because there's no going back once it's in the image. It changes the risk assessment compared to a typical cumulative update you can usually uninstall. The report says no prerequisites are needed for this WinRE update, and, as expected, CVEs tracked.
Okay, the last KB in the report is KB5060530. Another Safe OS dynamic update, similar focus.
Exactly. This one targets WinRE, but for Windows 10 Enterprise version 1809 and Windows Server 2019, also released June 10th. Like the 1507 WinRE update, it replaces a prior KB5055769, and updates the WinRE version for these platforms.
And the improvement is the same, enhancing WinRE functionality and reliability, high impact. Again, emphasizing those recovery capabilities.
And crucially, mirroring the known issue from the other WinRE update. KB5060530 shares the identical critical known issue. It cannot be removed once applied to a Windows image.
So the same stark warning applies. If you manage images for Windows 10, 1809, or Server 2019 and plan to include this, test thoroughly first. Once it's in the image build, it's permanent.
Correct. The report notes no prerequisites needed here either, and it tracks 0 CVEs.
All right. We've walked through all 13 KBs highlighted in the Portal Fuze report for June 10th, 2025. Let's maybe try to pull together some of the common threads, synthesize the key takeaways for administrators listening.
Good idea. Looking for patterns across these updates. We definitely saw that recurring theme of unspecified security enhancements, particularly for older OS versions like Win 10 22H2 LTSC 2021, KB5060533, and Win 10 1507, KB5060998, consistently flagged as high impact.
Right. That pattern strongly suggests Microsoft is still investing in hardening the core OS, even on older supported versions. It's not just patching specific known CVEs, but reinforcing the foundation.
Which means, for you managing these systems, you need to treat these unspecified enhancements seriously, like any other important security update needing prompt deployment. They boost overall resilience.
And the report did call out specific critical and high vulnerabilities. That overall count 1 critical, 123 high tracked by Portal Fuze across these KBs gives the big picture, but the critical impact rating was specifically mentioned for the Windows 11 updates, KB5060842 and KB5060999.
Yes, those critical ratings point to potentially severe exploits, maybe remote code execution or privilege escalation. Prioritizing deployment of those specific KBs is key to mitigating the highest immediate risks this month.
We also saw that very specific bug fix appear multiple times, the Windows Hello for Business issue with self-signed certs and the key trust model, resolved in KBs for Windows 11 24H2, Win 10 LTSC 2019 Server 2019, and Win 10 1607 Server 2016.
The fact it was included across so many OS generations suggests the original issue was likely pretty broad or impactful for organizations using that specific WHFB setup, a welcome fix for those affected.
There was also that distinct focus on enhancing the Windows recovery environment, WinRE, specific Safe OS dynamic updates for WinRE on Windows 10, 1507, and 1809 Server 2019.
Yeah, that focus on WinRE for older OCs is noteworthy. It suggests Microsoft knows robust recovery is vital, even for systems nearing EOL. A working WinRE is crucial when the main OS won't boot.
And the importance of servicing stack updates was everywhere. Mandatory SSU prerequisites for several KBs, including that specific older one for KB5060531.
Right, the August 2021 SSU KB5005111.
And others had prerequisites for the latest SSU, like KB5060998 and KB5061010, while the newer cumulative updates bundled the SSU in.
It just reinforces that careful SSU management isn't just best practice. It's absolutely required for reliable patching. You have to check those prerequisite details to avoid failed updates.
Then there was the persistent Noto fonts issue, blurry CJK text at 96 dpi in Chromium browsers, a recurring known issue across multiple Win 10 and Win 11 KBs.
Right, KB506060533, KB506060999 all mentioned it. While there's a simple workaround scaling, its consistency means you should probably anticipate user reports if you have users in those scenarios and be ready with the fix.
And finally, probably the most significant known issue from an infrastructure perspective, those non-removable WinRE safe OS dynamic updates, KB5060534 and KB5060530.
That's critical for image builders. Unlike most updates, these become permanent once baked into an image. It makes thorough pre-deployment testing absolutely mandatory if you plan to include them in your standard builds. Confirm they don't cause issues before committing.
So summing it up, this Patch Tuesday brought a mix. Critical security fixes, ongoing OS hardening, targeted bug fixes for enterprise features like WHFB and RDP, reliability updates for core components like WinRE, and a couple of significant known issues to handle, especially around imaging and display settings.
Yeah, it really highlights the ongoing complexity of managing patches across diverse OS versions, especially with some nearing end of support.
Thinking about the approaching EOL for Windows 10 and older servers, Microsoft's still focusing on things like WinRE, even releasing non-removable updates for it on old versions. It does raise a question, doesn't it?
What are you thinking?
Well, given all that, what are the longer-term implications for how you plan system recovery and how you manage those legacy systems that, let's be honest, might stick around in some environments past their official support date?
That's a really crucial point for administrators to think about. Microsoft updating WinRE, even non-removably, seems like an acknowledgement that these systems will exist. They're providing a baseline recovery capability. But relying on EOL systems without security updates is obviously a huge risk.
Right.
So for administrators, it might mean needing distinct recovery plans, maybe specialized tools or procedures just for these older, unsupported systems, especially layered on top of limitations from non-removable components. It forces a harder look at technical debt and EOL planning, not just adopting new features.
Definitely adds another layer to your infrastructure lifecycle strategy. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the Portal Fuze Weekly KB Update Report for June 10th, 2025. We've tried to cut through the sheer volume of Patch Tuesday info to focus on the key technical details, the potential impacts, and the known issues most relevant to you, the expert admins keeping things running.
We hope this distilled knowledge gives you the actionable intelligence you need to prioritize your patching this week and maybe head off some issues before they start.
That's the goal, helping you stay informed with the practical insights you need to navigate these complex releases efficiently. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the latest technical intelligence from Patch Tuesday. We'll be back soon with another exploration.
Until next time.
See you on the next deep dive.